Hi guys, welcome to the new section, Playing with Axes. In this section, we will start off with working with basic axes and customizing ticks. Next, we will draw grid lines, and finally, we'll look at dynamic rescaling of axes. Now, we move on to the first video of this section titled, Working with Basic Axes. In this video, we're going to take a look at the basic concepts and supports of the axis component in D3, different types and features of axis, and their SVG structures. Let's get started. Open local copy of basic axes in your favorite text editor. Take a look at this code sample. This highlighted code produces a visual output with 4 buttons. When you click the horizontal bottom, it will show you this. And this is what it looks like when you click the vertical right button. Let's take a look at how this works. The first step is to create the SVG element, which will be used to render our axis. This is done using the create SVG function, which is defined on line A. And the D3 append and ATTR modifier functions shown on lines B and C. Take a look at how we created the SVG canvas in this code. Now, we are ready to render the axis on this SVG canvas. The render axis function is designed to do exactly just that. On line D, we first created an axis component using the given D3 axis generator function. D3 version 4.x is shipped with 4 built-in axis generators for different orientations. The 4 axis orientations that D3 supports out of the box are as this. D3 axis top, a horizontal axis with labels placed on the top of the axis. D3 axis bottom, a horizontal axis with labels placed at the bottom of the axis. D3 axis left, a vertical axis with labels placed on the left-hand side of the axis. D3 axis right, a vertical axis with labels placed on the right-hand side of the axis. You can see in this code snippet that these are indeed the functions that get passed to the render all function when you click on the specified buttons. D3 axis is designed to work out of the box with D3 scales. The axis scale is provided using the scale function as seen in line E. In this example, we render 3 different axes with these scales. On line G, we set the number of ticks, the small marks on the axis, to 5. This tells D3 ideally how many ticks we want to render for this axis. However, D3 might choose to render slightly more or less ticks based on the available space and its own calculation. Once the axis is defined, the final step in this creation process is to create an SVG G container element, which will then be used to host all SVG structures that are required to render an axis. Most of the logic in this code is related to the calculation of where to draw the axis on the SVG canvas using the transform attribute in line H. In the code example, to shift the axis using offsets, we used the translate SVG transformation, which allows us to shift an element using a distance parameter that is defined with the coordinates in x and y. The more relevant part of this code is on line I, where the D3 selection call function is used with the axis object being passed in as the parameter. The D3 selection call function invokes the given function, in our case, the axis object, with the current selection passed in as an argument. In other words, the function being passed into the D3 selection call function should have this form. The D3 selection call function also allows you to pass in additional arguments to the invoking function. For more information, you may visit this link. Once the D3 axis component is called, it will take care of the rest and automatically create all necessary SVG elements for an axis, as shown in line I. And that's all about axis. Cool! In this video, we worked with basic axis.